Countdown is a PG-13 horror film that was released in 2009 and directed by Justin Dec or Deck. It's spelt DEC as in short form for December, but not sure how to pronounce it. Anyway, this is a horror thriller, PG-13, uh, teen movie pretty much. Fairly new. I just got off of reviewing Slenderman and I mentioned that I actually surprisingly liked Slenderman better than this film, which is the opposite of most people's views and takes on both of these films. But this is kind of along the same style of like PG-13 cheap thrills, kind of January style horror movie. I don't know if this one came out in January or not. However, it feels in that vein of like, you know, jump scareville, creepy premise but familiar premise kind of thing. And basically, it's about a cell phone app that tells you the exact second that you're going to die. At the beginning of the film, there's a group of friends hanging out at some high school party, and they discover the app, and then they're all going around like downloading it and wanting to play it, and everybody's like, "Ooh, I got 36 years, and I got 52 years left, woohoo!" And then the girl's like, "Oh, I have 4 hours left or 3 hours left or whatever." So apparently she's gonna die that night, and she starts to get really, paranoid. Obviously, she's kind of, but all her friends are like, "Oh, dude, calm down. It's just an app." When her boyfriend leaves the party, he gets into the car and he's like not even able to speak. He's so drunk. It's like, why are you getting behind a wheel, dude? I know you're young, but don't do it. And then his girlfriend, this girl that's supposed to die, gets all freaked out and she ends up getting out of the car. 5 minutes later, he ends up crashing the car, so she would have died in the car, but because she got out of the car, every time you escape death, the countdown gets faster, so it skips ahead. So she has less time at this moment after getting out of the car, and then somebody starts following her down the street, and she gets scared then, and then she like runs into her house or something, and then the countdown goes even lower, and then eventually it goes to her death. Now the fate that these people face, the whoever's about to die, is an entity, the supernatural entity, which again looks as ridiculous or even more ridiculous than the fucking Slender Man did. It's like some force that literally picks the person up and like flings them up in the air and then they just fall. Now it's a cool effect the way that this girl died by falling and like breaking all her limbs, but to make it such a supernatural entity, I'm like, couldn't it have been more like towards the like Final Destination leaning thing where something actually, that's possibly can kill you, kills you kind of thing. But that's, kind of a nitpick. They wanted to go the supernatural route. The fucking app is clearly supernatural, so it still makes sense. Anyway, that's the opening of the film. Then we're introduced to this nurse. Her name is Quinn, and she is treating a bunch of people, but she's also treating the guy that got into the accident drunk. Now, I don't know if he, like, it doesn't touch on him getting a criminal record or any police involvement in this thing because he got into a car accident wasted, but they don't touch on that. He just has, broken limbs and everything. And he also has the app, so it's counting down to his death. And he also has his own death in the same supernatural way in the hospital, like, stairwell. And he falls down the stairwell. Everybody thinks he jumped, yada, yada, yada. But Quinn also gets her hands on this app. And now we're following Quinn throughout the film and throughout her countdown of this app and everything. If you watch this film as a comedy and just a comedy, it's actually not that bad. If you watch this film as a horror movie, I don't like it. I mean, this film felt like a spoof in a lot of parts. I'm watching and I'm like, there's no way they intended this film to be a horror because this is a spoof of a horror. It's some parts feel like Scary Movie, like the Scream spoof Scary Movie. They have some of the parts too kind of reminded me of the way Insidious went with those two like goofy guys. I forget their names right now, but the two like ghost inspectors that work with Shin Lei's character. How every time they showed up in Insidious, the film would turn comedic. They did that a lot in Countdown, especially involving this priest, who this priest basically acts as if he's like, like the biggest Comic Con nerd you've ever met. Like he even refers to the Bible as like the best metaverse that's ever existed. It's so funny, and he's so nerd like, and he's a funny character. It was so spoofy and so goofy that, and it came out of nowhere. I didn't even like it too much when Insidious did it, but comparing the two, Insidious certainly did it a lot better than this film. This film just felt so out of place. Like I said, the only way that I could think of enjoying this film is just watching it as a comedy. That's what I think the best experience would be in watching this film. I also really liked this character that's introduced in the middle of the film, who works at a cell phone store. So Quinn runs into the cell phone store wanting to like erase everything on a previous phone and just get a new blank phone. And before she goes in, there's this customer he's helping out, and this guy is just loaded with sarcasm. He's a character that you're either gonna love for his sarcasm or hate because he's a prick to everyone. And this woman is like she slams her phone down. She's like, "I'm having problems with my phone," and he's like, "Oh wow, yeah, you put it down so gently. I can't imagine why." And then he comments on her. He's like, "What do you use it for?" And she's like, "I use it for Facebook or something." He's like, "This phone has more memory in it in your pocket than the 1969 space shuttle that went to the moon had back then. Oh, this is why society is doomed." She's like, "I want to speak to your manager," and he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem. I'll be right back." "Hi, I'm the manager. How can I help you?" And I just died at that part because that kind of sarcasm makes me howl. Although it can be annoying sometimes, I'm just looking at this dude and I'm like, dude, you're so fucking funny. He like saved the movie almost. And the way he did it, like they got the perfect actor to play this part because just the way he did it is so believable. He does this like spin and then he just turns around again. He's like, "Hi, I'm the manager. How can I help you?" It's something that I would do if I was like dealing with some just obnoxious customer that you just did not care about and just wanted to be rid of. And then she's like, "You just lost yourself a customer," and he's like, "Oh shit, that's too bad. Do you think I'll be able to find another one?" Again, something I would say. But yeah, this guy's like full nerd mode. He's always making Marvel references, Game of Thrones references. He was a really funny character. And then there's this other guy too. This is where after he helps Quinn, this other guy named Matt, he's like, he also has the app, and then he runs to Quinn and he's like, "Yo, I got the same app. Like, I have like 3 hours left too." So they meet. They start to get to know each other a little bit. That same night, Quinn basically brings Matt home because she doesn't want to be alone, and Matt doesn't want to be alone, and they already end up in bed. And it's pretty quick, their budding romance, but given the situation, I guess it's semi-realistic. I just find it funny when like two characters meet and then they so quickly, you know, start acting like they've known each other forever, even though in movie time they've known each other maybe an hour. Like that's how it feels, kind of thing. It's just funny. But this guy Matt, he's a black guy, and he goes outside the store, and I think this guy in some car starts mouthing off to him about something, and then Matt just loses it, and he's like, "Listen, man, I just came out of the store and I just realized that I'm gonna die in the next 3 hours, and I'm not afraid to take a white man with me." He starts taking off his coat, and this guy's freaking out. He's just like, "Oh shit!" He just gets back in his car. That made me laugh so hard as well. "I'm not afraid to take a white man with me. Fuck it." I fucking love that. Oh my god. So there were humorous parts of this film, but the story's just ridiculous. The climax is ridiculous. It's just a weak script. Like it's just cheap is the wrong word for these movies. Even Slenderman 2. It's not that they're cheap. They're like fast food, you know? They're like cookie cutter mass produced films that target a certain demographic, and they work for that demographic, and that's why they get released all the time, because they work. They're familiar. Familiarity is big on these films for sure. That's the biggest selling point in films like Countdown, films like Slender Man, The Bye Bye Man, Come See, I think it's called. Any, the fucking Annabelles and Conjurings, all those films were in the same style, but those were actually like really, really great and utilized that style the best. Whereas Countdown is like that, but not as epic kind of thing. But these films work, and they work for a reason, but you got to know what you're getting into. I'm a mixed bag. Sometimes they'll work for me, sometimes they won't. Both Slender Man and Countdown are not my favorites, but I think Slender Man definitely had more going for it than Countdown did. And like I mentioned earlier, I think Countdown is best enjoyed as watching it as a comedy because the comedy strangely works better than the horror does in Countdown, even though it's released and marketed as a horror film primarily. But it is what it is. Countdown is fine. I landed on a 1.5 out of 5 just because I gave Slenderman a 2 out of 5 and I did like it that little bit better. But it's a high 1.5. In percent wise, I'd probably give it 36 out of 100. Why out of 100? Because I hate decimals. I haven't said that in a long time. But yeah, I usually like to rate my films out of 100 instead of 5 because I think 5 is just kind of low. And there's so much like wiggle room in between. Like, sometimes I watch a movie and it's not quite 3, but it's also not quite 3.5. So 100 works for me. Anyways, I'm rambling now. Check out Countdown on Netflix if you're curious about it, but I didn't love it. And although it had some really, really funny moments in it that are just worth, like, if you could find scenes on YouTube, that'd be the best way to check them out. But, there's worse things you can watch to waste your time. So Countdown isn't as bad as others, but it's not a recommendation other than few and far between specific scenes. Anyways, that's all I got on it for now. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.